All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and start. Sometimes Murphy's Law is not always your friend. I do reside in Orlando, Florida. In typical fashion for us in the afternoon here, we're beginning to get our thunderstorms. So I'm hoping that I don't have a major storm where I lose power. But we will chum along. Usually I've been pretty lucky. Things have been running well. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking. My name is Mike Leary. I am with SolidWorks and have been, I should say, not has been, have been since 2011. I've been around for quite some time. I manage parts of all of North America, including Mexico, for educational sales. And I'm going to be talking about our brand new product for this year known as 3D Designer for Education, which is our cloud solution from Dassault Systems. Also, I'll put this on again. I know as we get more and more people on here, and there could be a lot of people that come on here over a period of time. If you do have specific questions that you want to ask me later or you run out of time, I'll be glad to answer those pretty quickly. Right now, I'm going to keep everybody's mic unmuted. Most of you have muted yourself. So if you do have a question and you want to ask me in the middle of what I'm presenting, feel free. If we start getting a huge amount of people, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And I'll put this back up again toward the end. So the big thing I want to highlight about our 3D Designer for Education product, this product is true cloud, meaning everything runs through the browser. It does not matter whether or not you're running a Chromebook, an iPad, a Mac, Windows, Android device. If it's got a browser, you can come to our platform. The big thing about the platform is many of the tools and functionalities that we have available, especially for the instructors, are very similar tools that you would see in a learning management system, or people call LMS for short. Some of you may be familiar with LMSs, some may not. That's not a big deal. We have what we call dashboards available. These dashboards, you get to create what information is available and posted here on our cloud offering. So imagine you customizing something that's more for your class. You really get to do that. I'm going to show a real quick dashboard. I called it my fall semester dashboard. And you can create multiple tabs that I have listed up top here. And I get to edit what these tabs are and what the functionality of what these tabs can be. For instance, like I created a login. So let's just say that there is a particular learning management system that your students must log into at your particular school. Depending on your website, we can embed that web page directly right into our dashboard. And I live 2 miles from University of Central Florida, which is the second largest student population in the country. I believe it's Arizona State is #1 for student population. And their students log into a management system as well called My UCF, and they're able to do that. And depending on if you have something similar set up at your school, we may be able to put that directly right here so your students can log in. And I can change these tabs at any time and rename it. Like if I don't like the name of login and I want to customize it to something more, I'll call it, student login. Real quick, how I can change the tab very quickly. And I can make these whatever, and I can add as many tabs as I want. I can continue to add more tabs and customize what those tabs are. And the big thing about the platform, I would say, is we have what we call apps. So everybody's familiar with apps. If you've been running an Android phone or an Apple iPhone for many years, you're familiar with apps, especially if you also have an iPad at home. This is what we call up here, known as the compass, is what Dassault identifies. And when I click on the compass, it gives me a list of all of these apps, and they're all listed in alphabetical order right off the bat. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to define what each of these apps are, but there's particular apps that are going to be most used, especially in an educational environment. One thing I do want to highlight for those that are running SOLIDWORKS in their classroom, we have this thing called the connector that's available here. And what the connector does is you're able to install this connector onto your machine, and you can turn on an add-on within SOLIDWORKS called the 3D Experience Link. And that allows me to save my files if I'm using SOLIDWORKS onto the cloud. Or vice versa, if I already have files that I already have currently up here on the cloud, if I have that connector turned on, I can also open up those files directly in the SOLIDWORKS. The big issue that we've been running ever since this whole COVID-19 has hit is many customers who have student licenses that are included with their SOLIDWORKS. The students don't have the ability to run SOLIDWORKS because they don't have the proper computer. Maybe they've been issued only a Chromebook from the school. Like I said, they have an iPad. Or even if they have a Windows PC, they may not have the video card requirements to be able to run SOLIDWORKS efficiently. This really eliminates that as a factor. That's really what it comes down to. So I don't need SOLIDWORKS to be able to do my CAD. There is an app we call XDesign. I'm just going to shrink one of these. I don't need both of these. Make this big so people can see this, because I think most people are going to want to see what XDesign can do and what are the differences between XDesign and, say, SOLIDWORKS. SOLIDWORKS is not going away anytime soon. There's already been over 25 years of R&D, and we continue to invest into R&D to make SOLIDWORKS a better software year in year, and there's no plans to end that. XDesign is our cloud offering running through the browser, through the platform here. Now, will XDesign replace SOLIDWORKS in the future? Potentially. But XDesign right now doesn't have all of the robust tools that are in SOLIDWORKS now. Will those tools be added in the future? Most likely. And so right now, the basic functionality of XDesign, if you stripped out SOLIDWORKS, because for education, SOLIDWORKS educational customers get everything that commercial has to spend a lot of money on. And most of those tools, most people are not fully using because they are high-level tools. So if you stripped out a lot of those tools and you went with the basics and the fundamentals, XDesign is that equivalent. So you can give a flexibility of your students if you ended up adding this product, or perhaps maybe you look at this product solely, they're still going to be able to do a lot of the same drawings or assignments that you're used to assigning in SOLIDWORKS that they should be able to do in XDesign as well. And I'm going to go ahead and we start off knowing it as new component. And right away, it's asking me, hey, what are we going to call this new component? And I get to call it whatever name. So today, I'm just going to call this, I already did July 20th. I'm just going to call Mike's another test part, and I'll put today's date for right now. And then it asks me for a location. So when you purchase our platform, there is a main depository known as the common space. That's where all the files and everything would be saved. You as an instructor get to choose whether or not you want the students to save to that common space, or you could customize where those students save their work. We call them collaborative spaces, and just let you know, it acts just like a folder in many ways. So imagine creating a folder and you're giving people the ability or the rights to be able to save their work to that location. that really makes your life a lot easier, especially if you're going to have different students, obviously in different periods, or however your classroom is set up. Maybe you have a multi-year program and you have your students for multiple years, and so they're year 1, year 2, and maybe you want to group it into that. You can do that as well. And so I get to choose. If I'm given permission to save my work to a certain location, I would just choose, okay, which collaborative space or basically folder am I going to save my work in? I have this unique one called Fall Semester that I created that you would be able to do as well as an instructor, and I hit okay. Now they just did an update over the weekend on our platform. That's what's great about the 3D Designer for Education is imagine you get to communicate with your IT people at school saying, hey, I have a brand new product and you don't have to do anything. There's no install for you to do. You don't have to worry about any updates because Dassault Systems handles these updates automatically. We do about 4 to 5 times a year. Traditionally, it's done on the weekend, and they usually add more functionality and more features. And I noticed over the weekend that they added a few more functions that I had not seen before. And we're going to have a more specific in-depth class on X-Design and our other CAD product called X-Shape at the end of the week on Thursday. So I would recommend that you look at that. I'm only going to go over real basics so people kind of can see what it does and how similar it is. Just like in SolidWorks, I have tabs, and with these tabs, I have different tools. And based on those tools, I'm able to do things. So, yeah, they're in a little different location, but they're right here. You'll notice that for those that are a big SolidWorks user, or even customers who have been using what we call our competitor products, whether it be Autodesk Inventor, or maybe you're using Fusion 360 or Onshape, when it comes to sketches and features, a lot of the tools, no matter what the CAD program, they may look a little different, but they kind of act similar. So it doesn't take a lot of expertise to figure out how to use those particular tools. What I do like, what we have here is we have our XYZ coordinates, and we use a chair to visualize what that coordinates are, and then the units to measure are listed right down here. So it's really quickly to make those changes. And for those that have been in the classroom for a while, this is probably the #1 issue you run into a lot of times. The students don't pay attention to what units they're supposed to be in, and then they're halfway into a project. Yeah, there's ways to type in a number, and even though I chose millimeter, I could type in 100 IN for inches, and it'll do it, but it just makes it a little bit more complicated for the student. And then over here, we call this the Design Manager. It's just like in SolidWorks, known as the Design Feature Tree. It gives you the history of how that part or, say, assembly has been created. Right away, I have my planes listed here real quick. I can just choose one of my planes. Right away, I get some shortcuts that show up. I like normal to, meaning having everything facing toward you. I think it makes it easier when I begin to do a sketch. And then once again, it gives me another shortcut here where I can create a sketch. I don't have to go all the way to the bottom. And then right away, it actually puts what looks like graph paper for this. And just like in SolidWorks or other CAD products, here's your origin, which is listed right down here. And I can choose, okay, what tool am I going to begin with to start my sketch? I'm just going to do something real simple. I'm going to do a rectangle. I'm going to start with the origin. I click once, and I just start bringing it out. And I just click wherever. It doesn't matter. And I can hit the escape key that gets me out of that particular rectangle tool, but I'm still in a sketch mode. And so most people are saying, okay, what can I do next? Well, normally I'm either going to assign a relationship to these, or I'm going to assign a particular unit to measure. For those that have been using SolidWorks for quite some time, they are familiar with something called smart dimensions. For us, we have, inside X-Design, we call it sketch dimensions, but the icon looks very similar. With the X-Design product, Dassault has been really investing into a lot more artificial intelligence with this platform. It has predictive analytics, and you'll see that being enhanced as time goes on, where it's predicting what it thinks you want to do next. And it just tries to do stuff for you so you don't have to constantly go down to the toolbar. So if I just take my mouse and I just hover on one of these lines, you notice that I get this little strange looking icon that shows up on the screen. And if I click once, right away it tells me what the measurement is, and it also gives me some information here that I can also assign to it. I'll just click on this unit to measure one more time, and I can just make that edit real quick and hit enter. I'll do the same thing, say over here, click on the units of measure, make my edit, boom. And once again, just like SolidWorks, if I fully define a particular sketch, it becomes black, which lets you know that, okay, I've done that. And usually, for those who've been in CAD for a while, usually you try to fully define a sketch, or it's highly recommended before you start getting into features or extrude or turning into a 3D part. So then I'm going to go ahead and come down to the features tab, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out. And right away, just like SolidWorks, I can choose the arrow, pull it out as far as I want to, or we can just come over here and edit that measurement real quick. And just like in SolidWorks, when you choose which direction you're going to have it, I can do mid-plane or up to a certain geometry, just like you normally would. So that's the big thing I want to show people. From a basic functionality, a lot of the similarities to SolidWorks and X-Design. So if you do have to run that hybrid model, that this is something you want to look into, especially the way schools are probably going to start in the fall. And just let you know, it's impact me because I have 3 boys. One boy is going to be a senior, and I got 2 twin boys that are about to be 3rd graders. So definitely been dealing with that ourselves, and it's going to be interesting to see how schools are going to run this year. And I'm going to hit the green checkbox, and right away I have this block. Nothing fancy, you know, nothing to get excited over. Now, one thing compared to SolidWorks is I would traditionally see a materials tab that would be listed where I can edit and assign that material properties to whatever alloy or whatever steel or whatever other physical properties you want to assign it. It's not here. So some differences inside our X-Design product is I do have to hit the tools icon, and we have this, I call it, looks like an ice scooper. They call it the material browser. If I click it once, it will actually open up some of the materials that are available to me. Now you will notice that we have 2 different options. And hopefully, just using a little bit of common sense, you probably could figure out what these options are. Core material just means that what would be the true physical properties that would be assigned to that part. Covering material would just be the physical aesthetics of what it may look like. For this example, I'm just going to click on one of these aluminum alloys that I'm going to designate for this particular part that I just made here. And the big thing to let you know is, you know, we are dealing with the internet here. So depending on your bandwidth and what's happening at the time, there can be a little bit of latency for things to react. Usually most of the time it works pretty good, but you know, it's just like anything else for those who probably are Netflix account users or Amazon Prime or Hulu or even Disney, right? Those things can happen. So that's just something to be aware of. Maybe some of the cons relating to cloud offerings. I'm just going to choose this 1060 alloy. I'm going to drag and drop it right onto the desktop here. I'm going to hit the green checkbox, and now it's beginning to apply the material to it. And it gave me a little notification that the material's been applied. And if I come back over here to the design manager, once again, the materials is listed in the design manager. It tells me what it is. And then if I come down to similar to SolidWorks under the Tools tab, you have mass properties. Hopefully, if those who've been teaching SolidWorks for quite some time, you're usually trying to get your students certified in the Certified SolidWorks Associate, which is basically fundamentals of 3D visualization and understanding XYZ coordinates, understanding mass and volume and all of those type of parameters. And I would think that if you're going to teach with X-Design, you're thinking in that same mentality. So if I'm choosing the mass properties because I'm trying to get information, obviously if I hit material information, we already know that was the alloy that I chose. But if I come down to the dimensional information, it gives me the mass of whatever that product is, which may be important to you if you're testing your students. And then center of gravity, it's going to give me my XYZ coordinates, which are one of other things that are usually focused relating to the Certified SolidWorks Associate exam. So I have a lot of people who ask me, and we're like, well, Mike, I'm focusing on getting my students CSWA certified. Can the students practice and get ready for the CSWA using X-Design? And the answer is yes. A sketch is a sketch, a feature is a feature. And some of the similar materials that we have in SolidWorks are available in X-Design. So you could get your students who don't have the horsepower to run SolidWorks at home and get them prepped and ready from the mentality of being able to take the CSWA. You would not be able to take the CSWA exam fully using a device other than a PC, because the virtual tester, the company who we use, who handles it, there's a particular Tester Pro client that needs to be installed, and that Tester Pro client currently only works on Windows PC. So just to let you know. So that would be the difficulty of not being able to take the exam, but you could theoretically take the CSWA even using X-Design because the functionalities are similar. You're still going to do those basics. And as you know, the CSWA certification is not version specific. That is out there. So there you go. That gives you the mass, and I'm able to see that. Real quick. For those that are running other devices that are, say, iPads, or maybe you have a Surface Pro at home and you like using the touch feature, one of the tools we have available to you is something called Touch Mode. And by doing Touch Mode, you will notice that there were many icons that are much bigger, which of course makes it a lot easier if you're using your finger to do some of this functionality and you're not using a mouse, or perhaps you're not using a stylus. So you do have that available to you. Another CAD program, once again, this is just the basics, and yes, you can do assemblies, and assemblies are very similar, like in SolidWorks. You're able to do different mates and all of that. So I don't really need to dive into that. But what I want to show you is another program called X-Shape. Imagine having a piece of Play-Doh or clay in your hand, and you can form it into a complex surface or a unique shape with your hand. And being able to do that on the computer has a lot of power, especially if you do have some of your students that are going to participate in different competitions, like say robotics, and they need to create some unique designs or maybe a unique cover, and they need to really form that. To create organic shapes can be very difficult when using it in parametric modeling. Yeah, we have the tools to do so, but it just adds a level of complexity. With X-Shape, it really makes life a lot easier into being able to create these unique shapes. So we have a lot of keyboard shortcuts. So while I'm inside X-Design, all I have to do is hit the X icon on my keyboard, and right away it says, okay, what do you want to use? I'm going to say X-Shape. And really what it's going to do is, it looks like it's changing the interface, But really what it's doing is it's just opening up another tab on the bottom. So we have the tools to do something called subdivision modeling. Some people call it sub-D for short. And it's kind of what I just explained to you, like a piece of clay. And say this particular boring block that I made here, perhaps maybe that's one of my parts, and I want to create something that's going to go on top of that. Maybe I want to create a unique shape to make it fit properly. So down here, I have some organic shapes to work with to get things started. So perhaps I'm going to probably use, maybe we'll use this quad ball. And now I get to choose where I'm going to put it. Well, I'm just going to put it right here. And really all I'm doing is I'm putting it because I'm going to use the block that I made as a reference geometry. And also, by the way, I need to get out of this touch mode because the tools are a little different when you're in touch mode. Get out of this real quick. You know what? Hold on. Cancel. Come on. Let's switch. Let's do it again. All right. Might have gone out of that. All right. So let's go back to subdivision real quick. Choose my organic shape. Like I said, the quad ball. Put that quad ball here. And right here, this gets the scale. So if I'm trying to scale this, maybe I'm going to have this go on top of this little boring block that I built here. I can just go ahead and just start scaling this to what I think may be the proper size. And then you notice that there's already some division that's been made on this quad ball, and I can always enhance that division and add more divisions to it if I really, really wanted to make it really complex. Well, for what I'm probably going to do, I may just do 2 for right now, and then I hit the green arrow. So now I have this little quad ball here, and all I have to do is I can choose one of these little sections. Like I said, it's called subdivision, and I just choose this, and then I can literally drag and pull this and start shaping this into something that I want it to form, you know. So I'm trying to do that real quick. And so there you go. So I just really quickly did this, formed it into this unique shape. Obviously, I could do more. I could pull here, start stretching it out, and doing this however I want to. As you can see really quickly, I can start forming this into something very unique. And then I can just hit green. Okay, that's pretty good for what I was wanting. Like I said, we're going to have a more advanced class on it on Thursday on how to really maximize X shape and X design. But for this example, I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch back over to X design real quick to show you one more easy functionality to do. Transition was successful. So I'm going to go to the features, and I'm going to highlight this particular area, and I'm going to do an extrude cut command. I want to cut all the way to get rid of that. And we can say, you know what, I want to do it through all. And right away, you notice that I cut out all of that material outside there. So imagine the power that you have in front of you, what you can do. And what's great about this is this particular part, I have it available. It's sitting here inside X design. But I could always save this particular part that I made in X shape, and I could also bring it into SolidWorks. If I had SolidWorks on my machine, we would be able to do that very quickly. I'm going to minimize this real quick. So many of you may be familiar with common other cloud storage like Dropbox or Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive, which is also, you can log into any of those. So if I already have any of these accounts, whether it be a student or be the instructor, I can click on that. I have my own Google Drive account, and if I already have some files here, I still could remain those files there, and I could always open those files somewhere into what we call our platform. What I wanted to show you is I use an example with another teacher who wanted to create something unique, and that they created this folder right away. You can just create any new folder real quick, and we're going to open it up and add content. So they added some existing SolidWorks part files into that particular folder. And what's great about it is similar to, like, for those who have used a lot of Google Drive or even Dropbox, I can share this file or folder, I should say, with others, and I could give them either view rights or edit rights. Probably you would do view rights because we know how students can be. And we would just type in whatever their name is. So I have a colleague here that's on the platform. I'm just going to put in my colleague Johnny Kim. He's got 3 different accounts. I can say, all right, I'm going to give Johnny access to this particular file, or this folder, I should say, which has those files, so he can use those. So imagine if you have some assembly files that you've either created, or, like I said, you're getting the students ready for the CSWA certification. One of the practice examples we have is we provide you those sample files to do assemblies, and I could always upload that and share that. So for those where you shared that with, like, you could have done a unique student name, which I just did with my colleague Johnny Kim, but if you could create a user groups, by the way, that's one of the advantages of this, is I can create unique user groups, and then I just have to put in that user group name. So if you have hundreds of students under a unique user group name, say it'd be your first robotics team, and you have whatever those 10 students that are involved, they would automatically all get it because you've already defined what those groups are. And so they would have access. And there's a couple other ways. When they get access, it will show up as any files that have been, or folders that have been shared with me would show up right here. So you can see that. And I have the file, and if I hit the down arrow, there's a couple things I wanted to show you, is it gives me 3 options. If you have that connector installed and you have SolidWorks on your computer, I can click on that and it will automatically open up that file directly in the SolidWorks. Or vice versa, I can have it directly open in Xshape or Xdesign. Or what I could literally do is, this is a SolidWorks part file. I do want to take a look at it. I may use this and build some other stuff on top of it. I can drag and drop it directly right onto Xdesign. There's a little bit, like I said, being the cloud, there's a little bit of latency. And it's asking me, do I want to save the work I did here? Yes, I do. And then what it does is it automatically does what we call an import function for it. It's asking me once again, hey, where are you going to save that work to it? I'm just going to choose that fall semester. It's doing this import functionality. I hit import, and there is the SolidWorks part file. It's there. And just to let you know, what's great about it is it doesn't give you the full history of how it was done. It just shows, it comes in as an imported body, but it does carry over the materials in which it was made out of. So if I go to Tools, Mass Properties, and I choose this, it will tell me that was what it was made. It was in that aluminum 6061. So if you're going to use this as an assembly, or like I said, or you're using this as a reference geometry and you can build more stuff on top of it, you would be able to do so. So a lot of capabilities. And like I said, my colleague Fred Kohler will be doing a more in-depth training on Xdesign and Xshape on Thursday. I'm going to go back and go over some of the other tools that I think are going to be important And tomorrow I'm also doing a more in advance, like I'm going to show how to take advantage of all these different apps that we have available and how you can really customize these apps for your advantage. Today is just a real quick overview, more of a basics type. Now for you as an instructor, especially those who have used a learning management system, you may be familiar with certain tools. So invite members. So right away, I can invite a member, and I'm just going to use my colleague again as an example, but I'm going to make up an email address. And like I said, you could do one email address at a time, although I don't think that would be very time consuming, especially if you have lots of students. I will show you more so tomorrow on importing the larger groups. Also, I will show you how you can create user groups as well. We have a couple different rights. Administrator, I think most of you would be familiar with. You would, as an instructor, would be an administrator on the platform. The students, you would want to assign them as a member, which is like a generic user. Right? You want them to be able to interact with it, but you don't want to give them administrative rights because you don't want them deleting or editing things. Now you will notice on the bottom below administrator, there's another icon called external. Commercial companies do use our platform, and they identify external as those that are contractors or interns. For our particular case and most of the educational, you won't be using any of that. You'd just be using members. And if you're going to invite other teachers, you probably want to give them admin rights. And then I do that. And then we do have cloud servers. So we have multiple servers, but our main servers, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. The one over on the West Coast is out of Los Angeles. And so your default, basically where you're going to be saving your information and putting it on the cloud, would be LA. For me, I'm on the East Coast, so my default is actually New York City. And you'll notice that there's a few. And that's important when you go to assign, because you want to have everything stored at something that's closest to you. It's really going to affect the functionality and the speed of how the platform runs. And then I hit next. Now you'll notice that we have roles, because that's really what you're purchasing when you buy this product. Is you're buying certain roles, and these roles are what really are giving you access to all of these different applications or apps. Okay, and for simplicity's sake, these are all the roles that you would want to give everybody, including all the other instructors, and these are going to give you all of the tools necessary to interact with the platform. So this is pretty straightforward. And then I hit next, and then you'll notice that there are a couple other add-ons, and I mentioned earlier that there is a SolidWorks connector, and by choosing the SolidWorks, you're really giving that person the ability to have access to the connector so they can have that installed if they continue to run SolidWorks, or they have SolidWorks on their computer and they want to do both. And then you just hit invite and it goes out. Now you will notice that there's a lot of other students that are listed here, and it says pending, pending, pending. And just let you know, all that means is all of these students have been given an invite to come to this platform. They just haven't logged in yet. They must log in first to be registered into the system. Common questions that I get asked is, okay, I invite a bunch of students, and what if a student leaves my program or leaves my class? Can I reassign that to another person? Because this is a completely different licensing structure, different from SolidWorks. SolidWorks is a floating license. So it's based on how many simultaneous users you have at once. With this, every student is a unique user. So when you're looking at this product and you're thinking about purchasing this product, you're looking at how many users you have in your classroom. So that would be, if you plan on using this for your whole school year, and you know how many students are going to go through your program, that's what you would look at. This is what we call a SaaS model, subscription as a service. Just like your Hulu, your Netflix, your Amazon Prime, you pay, it works. As soon as you don't pay, it's turned off. And getting back to the students part is once they're logged in, they're in. Now, I can reassign or I can remove, like say you have a student that leaves your program. You know, sometimes it's the beginning weeks of the school, you get some students that come into your classroom and whatever schedule changes, they have to leave your program. Give me a quick second, let's see. All right. And so as long as the student was in the system for 30 days, I can reassign that account to somebody else. If a student leaves your program right away, and obviously you don't want them to continue to have access to the program, you can remove their access immediately. You wouldn't be able to reassign it just yet until that 30 days have passed, but you would be able to remove their access. And Chris Miller just wrote me, since we're almost at the end of the area, I have a few minutes for questions. If not, like I said, attend the next session for tomorrow. I'll be doing the same time. I'll get into them more in depth. And if you have more questions then, feel free. And once again, here is my email address if you just want to email me a question directly. Any questions for those that are on here? Feel free to unmute yourself because we don't have that many people on here. So,
Mike, this is Chris. Thank you so much for doing this. I see other people jumping in, jumping out of the meetings, just trying to get a feel for this. So I think
great.
It was a very good representation of what this product can do and the space that it supports. You know, as all of our schools are starting to come back in the fall, they're all looking for this type of cloud-based delivery mechanism. So it's a great solution. I'm glad you did this. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. All right, everybody. Hope you have a good day and good luck on the rest of the sessions. Thanks.